When the shoestrings break on both your shoes and you're in a hurry, that's the blues. When you go buy a candy bar and you've lost the dime you had, slip through a hole in your pocket somewhere, that's the blues too, and bad. This is one of the many poems I've written about the blues. I've always been a fan of the blues and jazz, even though most people agree that I'm a terrible singer. I'm Langston Hughes. I was born on February 1st, 1902 in Joplin, Missouri. I grew up with my grandparents in Lawrence, Kansas because my father left for Mexico when I was young. He hated American blacks, so I hated him. I once even said children should be born without parents. At 13, I moved to Illinois with my mother, but we eventually settled in Cleveland, Ohio. After I graduated high school, I spent a year with my father in Mexico. I came back to the U.S. and enrolled in Columbia to study engineering, but I ended up dropping out. I went back to finish college in Lincoln in 1929 after traveling to Africa as a worker on a boat. I'd already begun my career in poetry with The Negro Speaks of Rivers when I enrolled in Columbia. I continued this career with books like The Weary Blues and Fine Clothes to the Jew. Most of my work isn't received well by black critics. They say that I should be writing about only the high parts of our race, not the common black man, as they say. They call me a disgrace to their race and criticize my poems and books. None of this matters to me, though, because my black public likes my work. They think that my portrayal of life as a black person is better than buttering up my writing about how black people are civilized and artistic, rather than telling them about how we're just like the rest of society. Just look at some of my most popular books. Simple Takes a Wife, Simple Speaks His Mind. Both books about a man named Simple, who's my representation of the common black man. One of my most famous poems is called Harlem. Written in 1951, my poem was adapted into a play by Lorraine Hansberry. The poem was, what happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? At the time that I wrote this poem, most people assumed that I was referring to the situations of blacks in America. They said that my mention of how a dream can explode was a hint that my people wouldn't just roll over and be happy that we have our freedom, instead of wanting to be equal with all of the other people. And I won't say that I wasn't writing about any of these things. Most of my poetry is about subjects somewhat similar to this. I enjoy writing about my people and the situation that we're in America. I hope that by writing about it, I can bring more focus to our inequalities, to the rights of white people. And I've written many poems addressed to the people with this purpose. I died of prostate cancer at the age of 65. The day was May 22nd, 1969. I kept my sense of humor until the last second, though. I requested songs that I knew would make people want to dance, so my mourners wouldn't know whether to dance or be solemn. I've been quoted before, like a welcome summer rain, humor may suddenly cleanse and cool the earth, the air, and you. I maintained this attitude in some of my last requests. I guess I did do something important with my life because people nowadays are talking about how I was a large part of a time period called the Harlem Renaissance. They say that by addressing my poetry outwards to people instead of inwards to my emotions, that I helped shape American literature to become what it is now. I'm glad the world took my poetry just as seriously as I did. I wrote over 100 poems in my lifetime, along with several books. I'm glad to have contributed to the great culture of my people.